do you see yourself, because I could see this for myself, ever getting to the point where you just kind of say, okay, you know what, the peak muscle building phase is kind of over, and not that you're not going to still try for it, but sometimes we see this progression with people where they maybe drop out of the natural bodybuilding scene a little bit, and now it's like, whether it's like calisthenics, they're maintaining that leaner physique for health. And I think that's kind of an appealing thing. Again, I don't know how I will eventually go to that, but there's a guy at my gym who's got to be like 60, and he's peeled, and like it's just like it's a good look, you know.
Yeah.
And he's not trying to be bulked up 20% at 60 years old powerlifter anymore. He's just embracing, you know, that health aspect.
Yeah, I think that's a natural progression. I think, yeah, the time to bulk is probably in your 20s and maybe 30s. You know, if a 40-year-old comes to me and they're like, yeah, man, I'll do whatever it takes. I want to bulk up and I want to build a lot of muscle. You know, a lot of me is like, hold on a second. Like, do you even know what you're asking in terms of like, because I think, yeah, at that point, you know, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if someone is like, you know, 18, 19 years old, and they're like, man, I want to go into a 400 calorie surplus, you know, I'm much more inclined to be like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, you're 130 pounds or whatever. You want to get big. Like, yeah, hell yeah. But I think the older you get, the less viable that is, and the less it just makes sense. As for me, I just look at it as like a trade-off, right? Because there's going to be a point when I bulk up and then I cut down, and there's just like, well, I think I gained a pound or two. I think at that point, you have to sort of weigh those things. And it's like, okay, well, is it worth trying another bulk and cut and doing things differently to see if like I could net some gains that way? But I think there's also nothing wrong with just sort of maintaining 12% or so. Like, I think for me, that would be fine. You know, probably 200, low 200s, so like 205 maybe. And you know, focusing on other things, on performance. Like, that's the time when I would be more interested in powerlifting. I get asked about that a lot.
Oh,
Like,
really?
oh, when are you going to do a powerlifting meet? Oh, when are you going to max out and do a bench cycle? I get people sending me bench cycles. Like,
Really?
I wrote GBS. I wrote you a bench cycle. Get this shit out of here. What are you doing? I don't do that shit. But I might do that later when like muscle mass is kind of just like,
Interesting.
man, right? It's not like I would give up on muscle mass, but I think realistically, if there's not that much more to gain, you know, maybe I'll just focus on other stuff, calisthenics, cardio. I actually filmed a video called Bodybuilding Side Quests a while ago. I filmed it like 6 months ago. I just haven't edited it.
Oh, it's not posted. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
It's not posted. It's on my computer. It's been there. Oh God, it's been there since before the cut, I think.
Oh,
It's been there
wow.
for like a year or something. And maybe I'll post it. But it'll be weird because I have like a different beard and stuff.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're gonna look.
This guy just time travels, man. No, but maybe I'll film an interesting intro where I'm like time travel or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a whole bunch of ideas, like maybe combat sports. I think that's one I might be leaning towards. Just
Of
because I
getting
think,
into?
yeah, just like jujitsu, or you know, not professionally or anything, just like fucking around, you know.
Jeff's in the octagon.
Yeah, I mean, I just from a usefulness perspective, I think that's running is
I was
useful.
gonna say, this way, if you get caught on your way to Vietnam, then at least you can maybe get out of it.
Now, you know, you hear about the fight or flight response. I can do either one in
There
that
you
case,
go.
right? Like,
Right.
it's sort of up to me. You know, I've had the flight for a while, but I think having both is
Yeah.
probably a good idea. Because I don't know how to fight. Like, people are like, man, you must be fucking deadly. No, what? No, not at all. I don't know. I just poke people or something. So
I've been trying
that
to
could be
challenge Kino Body to a charity MMA match for a while. He hasn't taken me up on it, so one day.
parody mud wrestling or something. No, so you know, maybe combat sports, maybe more cardio, calisthenics, maybe powerlifting at that point. Because once you've built all the muscle, I think that's where like transitioning it into strength, you know, would make sense. Like you're done on one goal. Like I'm very focused on one goal at a time. That's just how my brain works,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But just sort of latching onto one thing. So that's why I haven't made a video on hybrid training. I've never done hybrid training in my life. I just have these leftovers from when I was a runner, and occasionally I, see how fast I could run half a mile or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
so
interesting that
yeah,
you would go towards, because I think both of those are natural progressions. I've seen obviously plenty of people go from bodybuilding to jujitsu. We've seen a lot of that in recent years.
yeah,
And powerlifting, I think, makes sense because it's another way to progress, even though you might not be gaining more
sure.
muscle. I think I personally would lean away from both just because they're both substantially more injury prone than
Sure.
bodybuilding.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas I don't do calisthenics really much at all. But I
That's a good
find that,
option.
what's that?
That's a good option. Yeah, ring training. It's
Yeah,
just
there's a lot
really
of untapped potential there where it's like, look, I might not gain any muscle, but if I can lose some body fat, I'll get better at those things.
yeah.
And there's still a skill component to it. And you don't hear about too many calisthenic injuries. So as kind of going with that longevity aspect, it kind of seems to be a natural progression there.
That makes a lot of sense because it's almost like the opposite of powerlifting. Because powerlifting to optimize your performance, especially for bench, yeah, it's like eat a lot of food, get big, etc. But
Yeah.
calisthenics is the opposite, right? So you want to sort of lean down. Plus, it actually does work the abs quite a bit. So, you'll actually see the abs when you lean down. And man, calisthenics athletes, they look fucking amazing. They
Yeah.
look great.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good look. Um, and if my, you know, 26-inch legs shrink down to 23, like I'm not attached to how I look, right? Like I don't really care that much or care as much as people think I
Well,
should
you
or would.
also, I think you're fortunate in that like I think of certainly myself with my very long limbs and kind of like lanky appearance and everything. And like if I lose a little bit of muscle, it's like, all right, I'm going to look pretty lanky. Whereas you could still lose quite a bit of muscle. And with your not only just overall muscle mass, but your shape, if you
Right,
become a
yeah.
calisthenics bro, you're just going to be a super aesthetic calisthenics bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, yeah, I think especially with the waist size, um, and then with the arm insertions, as well as the traps, yeah, like I could probably go distance run for a year and still have traps. I had
Right.
traps before I ever lifted a single fucking weight.
Yeah.
Like they're just, I think they're just genetic. Like I've seen some family members, they just insert really high up,
Right. Right.
which it's like a sail, like the sail of a ship. If one end attaches really high, it's just a bigger muscle,
Yeah.
right? Like you have the jib or whatever it's called, and then the mast,
Yeah.
and then the sail is in between. So if you have a really tall mast or a really long jib, the sail it's just a triangle, right? So it's just going to be bigger.
Yeah.
So because of the high attachment, like some people have big traps, but they don't have the high attachment, so you can't even
Hmm.
see them from the front,
Right.
right? And so they have traps; they're just sort of hidden.
Hidden. Yeah.
So yeah, I try to be like transparent about some areas that I don't have like some magical trap building method or something. Like there's no trap ebook coming
Yeah.
out.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah, buy my trap ebook or something. No,
Right.
that's just that's the kind of thing where I can be specific and just say like, yeah, that's just genetic. Like when someone's like, how can I get your traps? Time machine, different parents or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. Like I don't know how that would work. You'd be a different person, but
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah.
almost like Ben Pakulski's calf and leg book that he put out is
Oh God,
well, yeah,
not a huge fan of his.
yeah.